welcome to episode 118 of Captain's Quarters Podcast. We welcome each and every one of you here. We hope that everybody will start tuning in on that comment section there so we can talk to everybody that's watching us. We are, of course, it's sponsored by the St. Augustine Pirate and Treasure Museum. They're our foundation sponsor of this show. And how do you find the show, ladies and gentlemen? Well, after
they're a good sponsor.
What's that?
I said they're a good sponsor.
They're a good sponsor. They sure are, Mr. Davey. They sure are. You can use that QR code and go to Captain's Quarters Podcast. That's our channel in YouTube. And you can watch us live every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Or you can wait until it downloads and then watch any of the 118 episodes we have out there. Plus, how many shorts do we have out there, Davey? Do you know?
A lot.
A lot. That's a good number. The short you put out there with little mini Mayhem, well, he kind of got 2.5, about 2,500 views. I guess what the crowds want to see is they want to see pirates crushing their nuts.
Yep.
That's what they want to see. So we might have to do that a little more often. I'm the captain, so we're not going to do that to me, but Hellfire, you're next.
Oh boy.
But hit the bell, hit the like, join us and be a part of what we do. As always, we like to start off with a little bit of an honor. 8 Bells, sponsored by Riker's family of reenactors. They do British, they do Spanish, and they also do pirate. And they're good, solid members of the St. Augustine Swashbucklers also. So how many do you have, Davey?
12, not counting the 2 Navy SEALs.
12. You are really testing me tonight, aren't you? I must put the glasses on because otherwise I will not be able to see anything. And let's start with the first 2. John Joseph Burke Jr., an American professional golfer who was most prominent in the 1950s, son of professional golfer Jack Burke. He won 2 major titles, both in 56, the Masters and the PGA Championship, and is a member of the World Golf Hall of Fame. He was 100 years old this past week. Marlena Shaw, born Marlena Burgess, was an American jazz, blues, soul singer. Shaw began her singing career in the 1960s and continued to perform until her death. Her music has often been sampled in hip-hop music and used in television commercials. She was 81, ladies and gentlemen. Mary Weiss, an American singer best known as the lead singer of Shangri-La's in the 1960s. She then vanished from the music scene for decades, returning in 2007 to record her first solo album with Norton Records. She was 75 years old. Robert Whitman was an American artist best known for his seminal theater pieces of early 1960s, combining visual and sound images, actors, films, slides, and here's one of those words you're going to catch me on, evocative props in environments of his own making. From the late 1960s on, he worked with new technologies, and his latest work incorporates cell phones. He was 88 years old. Albert Anthony Cantello, an American javelin thrower, as a member of the United States Marine Corps. He was the coach of the men's distance running program at the United States Naval Academy from 63 to 2018, that is. In 2013, he was inducted into the United States Track and Field and Cross Country Coaches Association Coaches Hall of Fame. That would be USTFCCCA. He was 92 years old. Robert D. Gaylor, an American military senior non-commissioned officer, the 5th Chief Master Sergeant of the United States Air Force from 1977 to 1979. After retiring from the Air Force, Gaylor taught, coached, and mentored leaders at all levels for United States Air Force Academy, a Fortune 500 company. In 2006, the NCO Academy at Lackland Air Force Base was named the Robert D. Gaylor NCO Academy in his honor. He was 93. Before you switch that, Davey, I met that man, the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, in 1978 when I was stationed in Japan. He had come over that way. He was 93 years old. Now you may switch. Claire Muriel Fagan was an American nurse, educator, academic, and consultant. She was an early advocate of family-centered care with major contributions to psychiatric nursing, nursing education, and geriatric care, which were underlined with strong belief in the power of activist consumer. Fagan was also one of the first women to serve as president of the Ivy League University. She was 97 years old. Jerry Hilgenberg, an American football player and coach for the University of Iowa. He was a first-team All-American in 1953 and served as assistant coach to the Iowa football team for 8 seasons. He was 92. Johann Peter Scheckel was an American composer, musical educator, and parodist. Now, see, I'm going to have to go look that word up. Best known for comedy albums featuring his music, which he presented as being composed by the fictional P.D.Q. Bach. He also hosted a long-running weekly radio program called Scheckel Mix from 90 to 93. P.D.Q. Bach recordings earned him 4 consecutive wins for the Grammy Award for Best Comedy Album. He was 88 years old. Nancy Burr DeLoy Fitzroy, an American engineer specializing in heat transfer and fluid dynamics. She was one of the first female helicopter pilots hired by Knowles Atomic Power Laboratory in 1950. She worked as an assistant engineer with the Heat Transfer Group. In 1952, she became a developmental engineer for General Electric, initially working on the Hermes missile program and designing heat transfer surfaces for nuclear reactor cores. She was 96. Dexter Scott King, an American civil and animal rights activist, attorney, and author. He is the second son of the great civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. and Coretta Scott King. He was also the brother of Martin Luther King III, Bernice King, and Yolanda King, also grandson of Martin Luther King Sr. He's the author of Growing Up King, an intimate memoir. He was 62 years old. Jack Jennings was an English World War II survivor. Jennings was among 60,000 Allied prisoners forced by the Japanese to build a railway between Thailand and Myanmar, then known as Burma, from 1942 to 1943. Jennings was thought to be the last survivor forced to build the Burma Railroad. He was 104. Wasn't there a movie made with that?
I think so.
I think so. The Bridge Over the River Kwai, I think, was the name of the movie, if I'm right. If anybody's listening, maybe they can do a quick check for me. All right. And is that it? Nope. There we go. Last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, this past week we had 2 Navy SEALs lost during their service to duty over in the Middle East. Nathan Gage Ingram and Christopher John Chambers, both Navy SEALs. Ingram was 37 and Chambers was 27. They drowned out in the water during their service to their country. We always like to make sure that we tell people that we know that are in the military, we thank them for their service. It's sad if we have to thank them posthumously. So, as you know, I am a military member and veteran, and I always find it to be very important that we recognize anybody and everybody that has served their country. Thank you, Davey, for doing that at the last minute. I gave Davey that information, and he was able to quickly do that very fast. I appreciate that. So, after all that reading, we do the historic 8 bells. Davey? We honor all of them, their legacy, and our regards to all of their family and friends left behind. Cheers. Joke of the week with Mini Mayhem. We have to take it from going a bit sad to going a bit silly. So, Mini Mayhem, come along, tell us a joke.
Ahoy, mates. Mini Mayhem here with a joke of the week. Sponsored by Salt City Comics. Which gym did the pirate visit? Think about it, and I'll give you the answer at the end of the show.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, our Mini Mayhem Comics and Jokes is sponsored by Salt City Comics out in Utah. And we'll talk about him a little bit more on the reveal of that joke. I don't even have a clue on that one, Davey. Sometimes Davey will sit there and snicker, but we'll see if it's worth a snicker today. Quote of the week by Spyglass Travel. My good friends, Kevin Rose and Angie Rose, running Spyglass Travel. You want a good walking tour of St. Augustine? They provide a great walking tour of the oldest city in the nation. And if you want one, you must contact them, Spyglass Travel. What is the quote, Mr. Davey? It's fine to celebrate success, but it is more important to heed the lessons of failure. Bill Gates. Yeah, that's easy for him to say. Yes, that's a good quote, though. It's fine to celebrate success, but it is more important to heed the lessons of failure, from Bill Gates. Ladies and gentlemen, Spyglass Travel sponsors every week our quote of the week. And of course, question of the week by Ancient City Sirens. Everybody knows those ladies dancing away at every event in every genre you can think of. I'm not even going to list them, but Ancient City Sirens, if you need dancers, why, they're the ones to go to. Miss Gina I'm proud to say I've worked with Miss Gina for 17 years now. It means something to me. On that note, what is your favorite activity to do in St. Augustine? And it's a two-part. And what is your least favorite thing about St. Augustine? I can tell you the second part. My least favorite thing about St. Augustine is the hassle it has become to find parking in this city. And it's time we start addressing that issue. Now,
you're right about that, Captain. I agree with that.
It's terrible. I try not to make things too political here, but ladies and gentlemen, we have a platform to talk about things to improve our community. And the parking issue needs to really be addressed. I mean, completely. But what's your favorite activity to do in St. Augustine? Well, for me, I enjoy giving tours at the Pirate and Treasure Museum. But we'll see what some of your answers are as we proceed through the show. On that note, let's talk about crew adventures real quick. We're only going to talk about one, ladies and gentlemen. Old City Pirate Day. Not Fest, but Day. Because of things that are happening in the world around us, we had to back it down from a 2.5-day event or a 2-day event down to just 1 day. It is a free event, ladies and gentlemen. 10 in the morning till 6 will be a family, entire for the family. We have vendors, we have activities for the children. We have music and other acts on the stage. We have the shadow players coming up. We're going to talk about them in just a second. And then from 6 o'clock till 9:30, it leans towards being a little bit more adult. We're not going to tell you you have to run your children out, but be forewarned, we're pirates, and we're going to go ahead and relax and it's all about social time, ladies and gentlemen. This event is completely free, but all the proceeds we make for this event will be going to Inc., Investing in Kids, and Alia's Acres, a no-kill animal zone. It is on the grounds of the Colonial Quarter, so come on out. There is a website there, but if you can't remember all those little letters and numbers and dots and whatever else, use that QR code and go to our website and find out more about it. Information on being a vendor, purchasing your meal for the evening festivities, or just find out about the entertainment. And I'm going to actually run through those real quick. Davey, pop that entertainment thing up there. There it is. For the evening time, the Whitecaps will be playing for about an hour, maybe a little more during the evening time. We also have Pirate Court going on. And Pirate Court is a lot of fun, and I'm going to just let it slip out now. The judge for Pirate Court, as it stands right now, is the Honorable Sheriff Hardwick from St. Johns County. He will be our judge, and his wife will be sitting on the bench with him as well. But you can see we have Reuben Morgan coming in. We have Noise Complaint coming in. We have Ancient City Sirens coming in, and Shadow Players are coming in. So we have a great lineup of entertainment for the entire day, and then socializing in the evening. Also, one quick thing just to mention, the Shadow Players will be conducting a sword fighting seminar on Sunday afternoon. If you're interested in it, please send us a message. We'd like to have you be a part of it. There are 30 slots, give or take. 15 of them have already been taken up. So let's see if we can get you to come out and have a good time. It's about a 2 to 2.5 hour seminar. And then afterwards, a bit of social time around the captain's fire pit with a little bit of rum. And because no rum during the seminar, can't be handling swords with rum in our gullet. But come on out. On top of that, ladies and gentlemen, we have a few more spots for vendors. If you want to be a vendor, go to our website. That website, Davey is going to put right there at the bottom of the screen, and you can see everything about our show, our event, and the things that are happening. We have at least 10 more spots for vendors. We'd like to have you there. And if you're going to be there for the evening, we'd love to have you socializing with us. The captain's table will have some rum. I'm not going to say it's free, but we do have charities to take care of, and you may have a drink with the captain. But if you want to have a dinner that evening, we have worked out something with Florida Water Tours. Actually, they call themselves Food Water or Water Food. I'll get that right by next Monday. And they are working. If you go to our website, there are 5 options. You go ahead and pick your options. You make your payments, and all the food will be delivered between 5:30 and 6 o'clock on Saturday night. And we can sit around and socialize, eat, drink, and have a good time with all of our pirate friends. Ladies and gentlemen, $5 from every box sold goes to our charity account. So we'd like to have you help us do that. We're shooting for 100 to 150 boxes. Please help us out. We'd like to have that. And come sit at the captain's table. Not only will you drink, you can eat with me. On that note, I think that's about it. Have I missed anything on it, Davey?
No, Captain.
I think we've done well. So, as we always like to do, we have a couple of videos that we pop in. So Davey always works hard and diligently on these. So let's see. This week in nautical history.
Sponsored by?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep, sponsored by Florida Water Tours. Right. Florida Water Tours. If you want a good if you want a good view of the city from the Matanzas Bay, why, ladies and gentlemen, Florida Water Tours is the place to go. And you can get these food boxes that they create. You can get them to take on the boat with you while you're on your tour. So you can have a nice evening and some food and great company. So, Florida Water Tours. Go ahead, Davey.
Welcome to This Week in Nautical History, sponsored by our friends at Florida Water Tours. Experience the intercoastal waterway at its finest, featuring picture-perfect attractions. We begin this week in nautical history in the year 1671. Welsh pirate Henry Morgan lands at the gates of Panama City. 1795. War of the First Coalition. French cavalry captured 14 Dutch ships and 150 guns near the port of Den Helder, a rare instance of cavalry capturing a fleet. 1817. British freighter Diana sinks off Malaya. 1820. Russian Antarctic expedition led by Fabian Gottlieb von Bellingshausen and Mikhail Lazarev discover the continent of Antarctica. 1856. American sidewheel steamer SS Pacific leaves Liverpool, England on what becomes her final voyage, lost at sea en route to New York with 186 on board. 1873. British SS Northfleet sinks at Dungeness, England. 300 die. 1906. SS Valencia runs aground on the rocks of Vancouver Island, British Columbia, killing more than 130. And finally, in the year 1932, British submarine M2 sinks in English Channel. 60 dead. And that was This Week in Nautical History.
Very good, Davey. And as you can see, well, look at this. I've got somebody sitting in the chair with me. This is my good friend, Gary Sass. Hi, Gary. How you doing?
Good, Captain. I appreciate that.
Gary is the owner of a tour company called Ad Lib Tours.
Ad Lib Luxury Tours.
Luxury Tours. And you do all kinds of tours. So there's your logo. And there'll be a website there. If you want tours or you want to book, mostly you do booking of group tours, right?
Yes, mostly it's private tours, and the Ad Lib is the flexibility, the personalization that I actually do on my tours. So somebody calls me up for a tour. It's their private tour, and we customize it to fit them, essentially what we do.
Now, I've worked on a few of those tours.
Yeah.
You've hired me to be a part. I have to say this: I don't work for many tour companies at all in St. Augustine, and there's a reason I don't work for many tour companies in St. Augustine, and I'm not going to go into that reason. But Gary has never put me in that position to have to make a decision. He always calls me up or sends me an email and says, "Hey, I got this tour. If you're available, I'd like to have you." And he's fair. He's always offered me a good fee. I've never had to ask for more. He's always been fair, and they've always been fun. This last one I helped you with was it 4 busloads? 4 busloads of Germans, people from Germany, and it was interesting because we have to go up to Jacksonville and meet them at the port, and then ride the bus down and talk to them and do whatever. And boy, did I get some strange questions, which is going to give me the first question I ask you. The second question. First question is, how long have you been doing ad lib tours here in this area?
So I'm into my 20th year.
Wow.
20th year. And I can't believe it. It's been that long. You know, I've never done anything for 20 years before. But it's the kind of job that once you get into it and you live it, you're loving it. And it's not boring at all to me because I'm adding new tours all the time.
Well, then it changes constantly.
Constantly changing. The groups are all different because I do a lot of that personalization. I do have, and at some point in time, I'll talk about what I do from the public tour perspective, but 95% of what I do is all private tours. That's right.
I mean, it's a lot of fun. I've enjoyed it. I even did a what's the word I want to use when they come together, like a work. Well, I've done a couple of them for you, but we did one major one where it was kind of a workshop, not a workshop.
You did a team building.
A team building. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yes, it was the Talk Like Pirate team building event. You did that for me one time,
and it was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah,
we had a good time. The bottom line is, though, if the client's happy, that's all that matters, right? Yeah. So 20 years.
20
How many
years.
tours a year do you think you're pulling right now? Do you know?
Boy, I don't know, but I know at the beginning of the year, come January 1st, I counted how many tours I had booked in 2024. I had close to 200 tours booked in 2024.
Already booked.
Already booked.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yep. So it's been, these repeat customers that keep coming back.
Well, that's an important part of this business is repeat customers or repeat clients. I mean, and it's not like it's not the same people, but the people that you're dealing with a client that might be the other end of the, so people understand that might be a tour company. I'll use the German group as an example. That company that handles those tourists, that's a company that you hopefully have a repeat business on every year.
That's right.
It's not the people, it's the company you're working with.
It is both the company that I'm working with that could come back every year, but it's also the people. And I'll give you an example. I work with a lot of local groups. Over 50% of my tours are from locals.
Really?
Which is very odd.
It
I
is.
mean, you don't get that like in St. Augustine as much. It's always visitors coming.
Well, you know what? I would argue that, but go ahead, because I'll give you an example.
So I work with retirement centers.
Ah.
And they'll do 3 or 4 tours a year with me.
And some of the people are the same people.
Some are the same people. Now, come the next year, they want to do more tours, but different tours.
Right.
So over the years, I just keep adding and adding and adding. Now I'm up to about 100 different tours that I do in all of North Florida.
And you do the tours in various outfits, garb.
Yep.
Davey, you could pop one up there real quick. But you do several different time frames of history. When Davey pops one up, there's one, and that's.
So I'm dressed like David Lee right there in Fernandina. That's downtown Fernandina. So that's one of the places that I tour. Do both driving and walking tours in Fernandina.
So you do from Fernandina to St. Augustine, this part of Florida. But you just told me before the show that you branched out. You're now doing stuff in Georgia.
That's right, because one of my tour guides, Molly Silver, her name is, that helps me in Jacksonville. She moved up to St. Mary's, Georgia, and she does walking tours in St. Mary's, and then she started doing Cumberland. And when she needs help in Cumberland, she calls me.
Very cool.
So I help her up there, Cumberland Island. So that's Georgia. And you take the ferry basically from St. Mary's over to Cumberland.
And what kind of tour over on Cumberland? Is it historic?
So
tour?
it's basically a walking tour. Yes. Historical tour.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, when you do these historical tours, you kind of have to have some of this knowledge.
Yeah.
And so where do you get a lot of your knowledge when you're
Yeah.
preparing for some of these tours?
Well, that's the thing is I'm a history geek. You know,
Same as
and the first thing I did when I moved to this area and got started, I joined the Jacksonville Historical Society and I joined the St. Augustine Historical Society, and I met the people in the archives. And I hang out in the archives in my spare time. So like Charles Tingley, for example, the St. Augustine Historical Society archives. Charles is a friend of mine. I go up there, put on the white gloves. Charles bring out all these folders for me. And I didn't want to get the information from other people, like a hand-me-down kind of a thing.
Right.
I wanted to read about it myself and develop my own stories. I wanted to get it right.
Well, very good.
That's what I did.
Well,
and I did the same thing in Jacksonville. I hung out with all these smart people in Jacksonville, knew the history, met people in the archives, and I go to 2 different archives there. One is the downtown library, actually has a research center up in the top floor. And but yeah, I look things up there and write my own stories. And
a lot of people
develop
don't
things
know
from
how historic Jacksonville really is.
Yeah.
Jacksonville is a very historic town.
Yep.
A lot of things went on there. So I'm sure there's some pretty cool ways to do tours up that way.
Which is the reason why I'm dressed the way I am.
Right. Civil War, right?
Oh, no.
No?
Oh, no.
Go ahead.
I'm General Andrew Jackson.
There you go.
So he's the city's namesake.
Yep.
And back then, the Americans copied the French style of uniform dress. So
Right.
I got my epaulets and all. And
your
my
hat?
hat is a chapeau de bras. Chapeau in French means hat. De bras means under the arm, because the officers would carry their hats. And this is how the American officers wore theirs. So maybe I'll turn to the side a little bit here.
There you
You
go.
can see it a little bit better this way. But my chapeau de bras, people remember Napoleon from the period, you know, wearing his chapeau like that. But Jackson, he was the hero at the Battle of New Orleans and War of 1812. And Jacksonville as a city, when it gets laid out in 1822, they name it after General Jackson. And he was also the first governor of Florida.
So when you talk about Jacksonville history,
Yep.
Besides Andrew Jackson himself, what are some of the other more not interesting, but what are some of the ones that people want to know about? Some of the pieces of history of Jacksonville that people are really interested in.
Yep. So the thing about Jacksonville is people don't know a lot about it. So
Right.
you don't get as many questions about the history of it. But I do like to tell them, you know, about the history, of course, because I am a historian, and I'll start with the French history. So, you know, we love to do tours of St. Augustine. We live to do tours in St. Augustine. It's all about the history. And really, chapter 1 in St. Augustine's history is Jacksonville, Fort Caroline.
Yeah.
Because that was the French Huguenot settlement.
Right.
And that's the reason why the Spanish came here, because that was a threat to them. Once they found out that the French were up in the Jacksonville area and the Spanish treasure ships are sailing by. So the French can then attack those ships and all. Well, that was a threat. And that's when the king basically sent Menendez and to destroy the French. And of course, he slaughtered them all.
He did. He pretty much got rid of every one of them. And you know, I have people that will come and tell me, his name was Jean Ribaud, the French. And I have people that'll come and say, well, he wasn't a pirate. Well, he was. If you look at it depends on whose side of the history book you're going to look at. Because as far as the Spanish were concerned, he was a pirate. He was pillaging and plundering everything. But the French were okay with it as long as he just kept going ahead and doing what he was doing.
Yeah, but he didn't come here to pillaged.
No.
These were French Huguenots coming here, basically, and seeking their own life in the New World and stuff like that. But they were Protestants, and the Spanish
were Catholic.
Catholics, and that didn't work so well.
No, it didn't. I actually
But,
had somebody on one of my tours argued with me. This happened several years ago, and the woman took almost my entire tour of the Pirate Museum, and every chance she could, she kept arguing with me and telling me there was no such thing as French Protestants. Okay, but all right, we'll just agree to disagree on this one, because I know the history. They were French Huguenots. They were Protestants.
Yeah.
And she keeps, and what was really astounding about it, more than anything else, she claimed to be a history teacher at a college in Midwestern America. And she said all the French were Catholic. No, they weren't. I mean,
there was religious wars going on
there
there.
were.
And that's why the French came here, because of the civil war that was going on in France at the time between Protestants and Catholics.
I mean, that civil war was no different than everything that was going on in Ireland between the Protestants and the Catholics, and England was Protestant at one time, Catholic at another. All the European countries flip-flop back and forth. I think Spain was probably the only one that was more solidly Catholic than anybody else. They had other things going on too, but that's the whole start of St. Augustine. So Fort Caroline is a good start for Jacksonville history.
Yes, it's the start there, and you think about it. Where was the first battle between European powers in the present day United States? It was in Jacksonville.
It was in Jacksonville.
Because, once the Spanish came, basically, and realizing the French aren't going to leave, shoot a couple cannonballs at each other. And then, of course, the Spanish came south to St. Augustine. But that's where it starts. But what I like about Jacksonville, and this is the reason why I like doing Jacksonville better than St. Augustine.
Okay.
St. Augustine, when I do St. Augustine, it's like I got to do history. I just got to do history. There's so much history there. You got to do the history, right? It's all around you. But you in Jacksonville, what do you see? Well, yes, we have some history, but you also have architecture. What do you see? Look at these buildings. All these buildings are all different. So you have architecture. You have the culture that's there. You got music culture. You got sports culture that's there. So you can change the tour a lot in Jacksonville. Once you read your people and see what their interest is, I can modify the tour to fit their interests better.
That's what makes your tour so good.
Yeah.
I kind of do the same thing when I'm going through the Pirate Museum.
Yeah.
And I'm doing a tour in the Pirate Museum. And I know what I want to start with. And there's a lot of things about pirate history, and almost everybody, their knowledge of pirate history is because of Disney movies or whatever. And I make a couple of comedy remarks about that.
Yeah.
But as I'm going through, I can tell what the audience, what the tourists want to know, especially because I open it up and let them ask any questions they want. And once they start asking questions, that's the direction I like to go.
Right. Oh, exactly.
And that's the best way to handle tour groups.
Yes.
I know we have at least one tour guide in our audience, and hopefully he's going to be in there saying, yep. Agree with you 100%, or at least 90. I'll take 90. So
you want to make it interactive.
Yes.
And once it becomes interactive and they start asking questions, then the beauty is you turn it around, and then it's not your tour, it's their tour. Once it becomes their tour, boy, you got something then.
Yeah. I equate it to doing comedy clubs, because I did comedy clubs before I came back here to St. Augustine, because this is my hometown. But you have to read the audience in a comedy club, and you only have a few minutes to do that. And if you read it wrong, there's nothing worse than this applause. That's the word. I've gotten it a couple of times. It's terrible. But it's wonderful at the end of the tour. I do it. So I'm going to ask if you do it. At the end of the tour, do you stand wherever the exit is that they're going, or they're getting on the bus, or whatever they're doing? Do you stand and try to shake hands and say thank you to everybody?
Since COVID, don't shake hands as much.
Right.
sometimes a fist bump.
But you
Gotta
still
be
try
like-
to have
but-
a quick personal interaction with each one of them.
There is closure. As part of that tour, there is closure.
Yeah.
That is one of the components of a tour, to properly close and thank them for coming and all.
Right.
And for sure, I mean, yes, you want to thank them at the end.
And the way you just answer that is going to segue now into my next question, because we've already talked about it. You are working on a book,
That's right.
and that book is, well, you explain your book, because
Yeah.
I know what it's about, but I don't want to paraphrase. You're writing a book for tour guides, not for
That's
tourists, for tour guides.
For tour guides, that's
Yes.
right. And people might look at it from the outside and say, oh, it's easy to be a tour guide. All
Yeah.
I have to do is just learn some information. That's all I got to do is learn some information. And it is so much more than that to being a good tour guide.
You're an entertainer.
That is correct.
You are
And
an
that
entertainer.
is a big part of the book, is that a tour is going to be educational, but it's also going to be entertaining. You want them hanging on to see what it is you're going to say next.
Yes.
You know, that's where the really good tour is. And I didn't know that when I started. I mean, I moved to this
Well,
area
you've got
20 years ago.
You've got 20 years under your belt now, so you do know this.
Yep.
Now.
Moved here 20 years ago, totally open mind to touring. And I saw how people were doing it. And I said, I'm going to do it differently. I'm going to focus on some other things than what they are doing. And one of those aspects that I realized was that entertainment aspect. First and foremost, a tour guide to me is an entertainer.
Yes.
First and foremost.
To me, every tour I do, if I do 4 tours or 5 tours in a day, whether it's a school group with 4th graders or 5th graders, or an adult group, or an elderly group, every one of those 45 to an hour tours with me is like a miniature show.
Yep.
And if you do 4 or 5 in a day, if you put all your energy into it, it's a wearing day. It can wear you out at the end of the day because you put a lot of energy into it. So I have another thing too. Let's see if you agree with this. And being a pirate makes it easier for me. I don't know how serious some of your other characters are, but being a pirate makes it very easy for me to be a smartass and to say things off the cuff
Yeah.
that, and maybe an example will pop in my head in just a minute, but to say things off the cuff that, but I'll give you an example. Once in a while, I'll reach into my pocket and I'll pull my cell phone out because I'm trying to keep track of my time with everybody. And I'll constantly have somebody say, hey, pirates didn't have cell phones back then. And I look at them and I go, you're absolutely right. You know what else they didn't have back then? They didn't have tourists worrying about my cell phone, so mind your own business. I've never had anybody get upset. Everybody laughs at it. It's just meant to be funny. But I believe, and this is my personal thought, if you're trying to learn something, humor makes it easier to learn things. Humor is very important when I've had teachers in various classes when I was in college and high school, and the teachers that incorporated humor into their lessons or made us laugh, that makes it easier for you to learn.
Oh, absolutely. Those teachers that were those really good storytellers, and you get a laugh about something, you remember that. You can think back to it and remember that. And I know every tour that I do, I plan humor at different times.
Right.
Probably each tour, there's probably 15 to 20 spots where I could interject humor. I may not, I may only be 4 or 5 on that tour, because some of my humor is going to be more of the ad lib kind of a thing that I'm interacting with the people.
Right. And even if you say the same joke for 15 tours in a row, the audience, your tourists, they don't know that to them it's ad lib.
Right.
It's after doing magic shows for 50 years, I know almost every reaction that I'm going to get when I bring an audience member in to help me with the show. I know what's going to happen.
Right.
Because after all these years, it always happens. Human nature is very easy to understand. So that's where you have the ability to interject that humor at the right time.
Right.
And you're making it as your tours are. You're making it so that they feel like it's their tour.
Yep.
It's not canned. It's not regurgitated script. I've seen some tour guides, and we try not to mention names or be ugly to anybody, but I've seen some tour guides that you can tell by what they're doing that it's just a piece of memorization here.
Yeah.
And then somebody throws a question in or something happens and they get befuddled and
Yeah.
now they're lost. They don't know where to go.
Yeah.
And they end up backing up into their tour and repeating their words over again because they don't know where to go. I mean, it's the same thing. In the older days of McDonald's, if you went into McDonald's and ordered your drink, your fries, and your burger in that order,
Yep.
you confused them because they want you to order the burger, the fries, and the drink. If you order it the exact opposite, it would confuse the hell out of them. So the humor part is always it's always fun to me anyway.
Yep.
So you've got over 200 tours for this year.
100. Yes, 200 booked.
Wow,
200 booked.
that's a lot. It's also a lot of people.
Yeah.
I mean, really, it's a lot of people. Are they pretty spread evenly between Jacksonville and St. Augustine? Or are you doing more in Jacksonville now than St. Augustine?
It's probably about the same.
About equal.
But I have, I think, 8 tours booked in Green Cove Springs.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. So there's other areas that I do. The beaches area, I have 3 tours booked at the beaches. I do cemetery tours, Evergreen Cemetery Tour in Jacksonville. I know I have a couple of those booked. I have a tour that I do from Palatka to DeLand. And I have like 8 of those.
Wow.
Booked. Yeah.
Very good. But when you're putting all this together, you're putting the bus ride and you're putting all the parts to this tour. The bus ride, the meeting them, the making sure they get to where they're going and everything else. You're doing a lot of that as part of what you do.
I am a transportation company. So the official name of my company is Ad Lib Luxury Tours and Transportation. But I only have one vehicle. And I have partners that have the big motor coaches and that sort of thing. So I hire them for the motor coaches. But I also do a lot of step-on tours. So some of my customers, some of my tour operators that'll come down into the area, I step on to their motor coaches.
And do
So some of them, when they come, I do 3 tours. They have their, basically I do, it's Kingsley Plantation and Fernandina on one day, do Jacksonville another day, and St. Augustine on the third day. So some of them that come, when they come every year, I do 3 tours with them.
wow.
Yeah.
Well, I enjoy being a tour guide. I just started my 14th year with the Pirate Museum this month. So, and I've gone back through and looked at all my calendar for the whole time, and that's over 9,000 tours I've done. Wow. Closer to 9,500.
Wow.
Yeah, it's. I mean, that's a lot of people, and I take a sense of pride in that, which I'm sure you do. You getting to interact and share your love of history with a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I love it when I have people come back every summer, want to take the same picture in the same pose with the children as they've grown up. That's always wonderful to do. St. Augustine is the #1 day trip destination for the entire state of Florida. Many people come to Florida. So I see a lot of people. Oh, I was here 3 months ago. We decided we want to take your tour again. Okay.
Right.
So I get to see a lot of people constantly over and over and over again. And there's a sense of gratification with that they like what you do so much that they keep coming back.
Yeah.
So it means something to me. So when do you think you're going to have your book ready? Put you on the spot on that one.
Put me on the spot. I think it'll probably be another, because I need a gap again, and I'm getting really busy with tours.
Yes.
My February is like totally booked out. So I'm not going to get really a big gap again until the summer. So it'll be finished this summer.
Very cool.
It'll be finished
So
this
I
summer.
want to make sure I get a copy of it with your autograph in it. Most of the books that we have up there are, a lot of them are by authors that have either been a part of the show or helped us with the show. So we have this big collection of books by people. So going to make sure we put one in there. And of course, I'll read it first. I might learn something. Yeah, I might learn something.
And you might be able to tell when you're reading it, because obviously I've learned from a lot of tour experiences and seeing a lot of tour guides in action, and some of them are good, some of them aren't.
Yeah.
And it all plays part in the book. And but you stand, above and beyond everyone from an entertainment aspect.
I appreciate that. I truly do. I mean, you've had me come on board and work on a couple of tours, like the German people. That was 4 buses. So it was me and Chad and
Michelle on that
Michelle, Reyna, and then Molly.
Yeah.
And so there was the 4 of us.
Yep. And
we all got a bus. And I think I told you on the way back, we just opened it up to questions and answers. Right. And they were asking. Here's one of the most unusual questions I ever got from them. They were curious why we don't make people put their license tag on the front and the back of our cars, only on the back of the cars. I mean, that they would notice that is just something I wouldn't have ever thought. So it was hilariously funny to have these questions like that. So do you have, put you somewhat on the spot, do you have one or two memorable things that have happened to you while you've been doing tours?
Sure. One thing that I should say, and it kind of related to the book, and it's that I call it the escape component of a tour, the escape component. And if you can have an escape as part of your tour, that makes it a better tour. And I'll give you an example. When I started Jacksonville walking tour, which, that is one of my favorite things, is how I ended up getting into starting that tour. I figured out how to get into the underground of Jacksonville. And people don't think of an underground in Florida because you dig down, you get water, right?
Right.
There is no underground. But Jacksonville has a spot in downtown that's on a hill. And that's where the banks settled. The 3 largest banks in all of Florida all settled on this hill, put their headquarter buildings on that hill. What would they do that for? Well, they're on a hill. They could dig down, not hit water, 1 story underground. That's where they put their vaults. So what I do is I take people on a 2-block walk underground and then take them into an old 1909 bank vault.
Wow.
And that is the escape component. And of our top to bottom tour, walking through the underground, that's about 30 minutes of the 2-hour tour. But I'll get people call me up and say, are you that guy that goes underground? Are you that guy that goes into that old vault? I said, yep, I'm that guy.
Well, that's an interesting
That's
tour.
what we want to do.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Like
so
that.
That's an escape component. Like, it could be doing a tour and, if it was open or something, you just take them inside to a part of the Pirate Museum or take them into something that they can't normally get into to show them something different.
Well, here's something.
So that's one of those components that I like to do on a tour.
I'm working on a process for a tour that is a rum tour.
Okay.
It will happen at night, and the Colonial Quarter is dark, and there's no access to the Colonial Quarter at night unless there's an event going on. And because we have 3 bars on the property, it will be a 3-bar stop, but in the Colonial Quarter, not in the bar itself. And so they'll get 3 different rums and some history of rum and pirates. But at points in time, some of the Colonial Quarter is a little bit more eerie and spooky and dark because the lights aren't on and there's no sunlight.
Right.
So I'm working on that. So that's probably right around what you're thinking right there.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
It's something that nobody really is going to get any other time.
Right.
If they book this tour. And so we hope that's a special tour for people. I'm not sure when we're going to start it. The the managers of the Colonial Quarter are on my side with this idea, and there is a tour company here in St. Augustine that wants to take care of all the paperwork side of it and just have me do the tour. And so I think we're looking at maybe starting it soon, maybe in March or April. We'll start it. I can't do it. I, like you, we have the Pirate Museum in February has 275 school tours in February. Now, obviously, I'm not doing them all because we have Sandra and Mr. Leon and Mr. Steve and Miss Olivia. So there's 5 of us, but 5 divided into 275. We're all still working our hindquarters off. So it's going to be very busy. Great tour. Took it over a dozen years ago. Ears love the bank vault. So somebody that has taken your tour. There you go. So that, were you all ears or half an ear? So do you have, because you're always changing, you're always trying to upgrade or add more to it. Do you have any ideas of things that you want to do but you haven't had a chance to do yet, as far as tours are concerned?
I have a number of customers that are homeschool groups in Jacksonville.
Yes.
A lot of homeschool groups. And they've done a few of my tours that are designed around homeschool groups, but I know I could do a lot more with them. And I got to create more programs, because that's really how all my programs have evolved. It's my customers that have said to me, "Hey, Gary, what about Jacksonville churches? Can you do a tour of Jacksonville churches?" Well, yeah, we'll do a church tour. So then I created a church tour, so a lot of it's my customers drive sometimes my newer tours and my newer offerings. So my homeschool groups, I know I got to create more offerings for them. And I think the homeschool groups would really like a scavenger hunt kind of a thing. Yeah, and I got to spend some time really working on that.
Now, we have homeschool groups that come to the Pirate Museum.
Yep.
And so I'm going to give you a piece of information that you may already know, but incorporate it in your thought process. When you're doing a homeschool group, you may be working with almost every grade level at the same time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I've had groups come in, and I've got 1st, 2nd, 4th, 6th, 8th graders. Yeah. And now you have to figure out, how do you keep it entertaining for all these levels? Right. Because an 8th or a 9th grader doesn't want to be talked to like they're a 1st or a 2nd grader.
Oh yeah.
So it's a challenge. Yeah. It's not tough. I've not had any major failures or setbacks in it. But it's something to think about when you're starting to put it together, because the best part, more than anything else, if you can accomplish that kind of a tour, I enjoy the appreciation of the parents, especially. The parents really like it when people step out and do something that it feels like it's just for them. So I've also, here's another one. I've done some tours in the Pirate Museum for deaf children. One of these days, maybe I'll actually learn to sign, but I have other people that come and sign with me. I've also done some tours for children that were blind and can't see or have very impaired vision. On those tours, I actually try to come up with things that they can touch and hold and feel.
That's so funny that you say that. So I got to tell you this story, and it changed how I did tours. And I was probably in my 2nd or 3rd year, and I got a call from a group in downtown Jacksonville. I was staying at one of the big hotels there for a conference, and they called me up on the phone, asked me if I could do a St. Augustine tour. And like anybody else that calls, I ask them a few questions, why they're in town. Maybe I'll learn something about them, because in my head, I'm going to design a tour for them. And I asked if there was anything, about their group and, why they were here. And they said, "Oh yeah, we're here for a conference for the visually impaired."
Ooh.
And I'm like, "Oh, so I'm doing a bus tour for the blind in St. Augustine. Yeah. So I had a little bit of time to put it together. But I said to myself, a tour isn't just what it is you see.
No.
You have all the other senses. So I then created all of these props that I could pass around the motor coach. Things like coquina stone.
Yes.
And we talk about coquina stone. We show them what it is. But I got the pieces of coquina stone for everyone to hold it and feel it and then talk about it. So I focused then on props for that group, and things that touch, things that even taste, things that smell, and created that tour for them. And when I finished it, I was like, wow, I'll bet those same props I could use with everybody. So it changed the way I thought about doing tours.
Because you made your tour. We keep bouncing back to the word entertainment, but you made your tour inclusive.
Yeah,
That's the word, inclusive. You brought them in, and they weren't just there to listen to you, or they were there to be a part of the tour.
Oh yeah,
and that's what makes I find that challenge to do that at every tour to be really enjoyable, because that gives you the edge to make it a good tour.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons I like doing it the way I do it. And being a pirate makes it a little easier for me. And I've had to, so I'll tell you kind of a funny story. I have to be very careful, because there have been a couple of times where I've been in the museum and people have come to say hello to me and I'm not dressed like a pirate. And I've started to say something and I know I stop all of a sudden and go, this is not going to have the same effect coming out of somebody that's not dressed like a pirate. And I've even caught myself on the streets of St. George Street, walking past, being dressed in jeans and a jacket, no pirate gear or something. And normally, if I see a little kid crying, I'll stop and give them a coin. And I've realized that just some normal person stopping and giving a coin to the parents think, that's a little creepy. So I have to really be careful and be mindful that I'm not in pirate gear all the time.
right.
So so you have to, but it has led to some giggles once in a while, mostly giggles with inside of me, where I'll walk down the street and just go, wow, that was a close one. So how many tour guides do you have, aside from me and Chad and Michelle and Molly? How many tour guides do you have in your stable that you can call on when you're stable, like it's or your bullpen? Let's use bullpen. How many do you have?
I have quite a few, because like Green Cove Springs and stuff, I need a backup there, So different places I have backup. So I have quite a few people that I can call. Where I use them more often than not, though, is downtown Jacksonville, because our walking tour program that we essentially have, that's every Tuesday at 10 o'clock is our top to bottom tour. So that's the one public tour that I do. And you can go out to Eventbrite, Jacksonville Walking Tours, find us out there. Tomorrow is a Tuesday. I got 25 people at 10 o'clock doing it. And I had other people call me and say, hey, we can't get on that tour. So I had to add one at 1 o'clock. And then I got one at 4 o'clock that day. And the 4 o'clock will be the best one, though, because I'll end that one at Bold City Brewery. That's my happy hour version.
I like that.
End at Bold City Brewery.
Yeah,
and they got the best beer in downtown, so I end there.
That's a good one. I've had people call me up and say, "Are you doing tours on the weekend?" Yeah. During the week we do educational tours, unless it's the summertime, and then we do public tours. But on the weekend I do public tours, and I have people send me messages, emails, or whatever else. And, we're going to be in town. Are you doing tours? Yes. Why don't you come to the 3 o'clock tour? Why? Because when the 3 o'clock tour is over, I'm done. and I like to go have a rum, and you can go sit and have a rum with a pirate. And so I get people that will, and so we go back to one of the bars on the property, and I'll have a rum, and we'll end up doing a few jokes and conversation, and even more. So those are good tours. I like those kind. Yeah.
So I need more backups in downtown Jacksonville, and some of the tour guides will kind of come and go because they'll get other jobs and stuff. But right now, I just have I have Molly, and I have Jessica Walton. Helps me in downtown Jacksonville. She does the tasting tours.
She works for the
tasting tour company. Yep. So, but she lives in the downtown Jacksonville area, so she helps me out there. But that's I'm training some new tour guides basically there. But that's where I, get into trouble because I'll get more of the demand for that tour.
Right.
Some of the other tours that I do, like I do a beaches tour, and I'm the only one that does it. A customer will call, and I just look at my calendar when I'm available and tell them. So that's kind of easy. I don't really need a backup for that, as long as I can do it and I'm going to be around.
Well, since you mentioned the tasting tours, they're the ones that I did the cart ride with the guy with the big white beard. We'll just leave it at that case for sure. They're the ones that I'm working out the deal for the rum tasting.
Okay.
Yeah, I enjoy working for them, Andrea and Joe.
Yeah.
They're good people. I like working for them. I'm trying to get them on the show one of these days, but they're always so busy. I'm hoping that maybe sometime in a couple of months when things are slowed down for them, I can get them on the show too. I've had Kevin from Spyglass Travel on the show. I've had a couple of other tour guides on the show. I've had Morgan Lanny on the show. I enjoy bringing tour guides on the show because it's a lot of fun to hear different versions of some of the same things we all do.
Yeah.
And as you said earlier, there are some really good tour guides, and then there's not.
Right.
I mean, and the good tour guides are the ones that look at it as an entertainment show.
Right.
And I've enjoyed every time. So we've been friends and worked together now for at least 10 years. I think at least 10.
Yeah.
Probably at least 10 years. So do you do a Jacksonville movie, aka First Hollywood tour? That's a good question.
I actually did a version of that on a pub walk. During the pandemic, I had, was looking for work, trying to create work, trying to do things outside. I even started something called the History Hiker at one time, which I do lots of. That's what I do for fun, is I do these hikes and go around the world. I did the Camino last year. This year coming up, I'm going to do the Inca Trail. But during the pandemic, I decided we would do some pub walks outside. And so it was right around the pandemic. People were saying, oh, we want to do something, and this way we can get a beer inside the microbrewery. We could walk around outside. So I came up with 8 different themes in downtown Jacksonville, starting from Bold City Brewery and walking around different routes, basically, and ending back at Bold City. So I called them Jacksonville Pub Tours, and each one was themed out. And one of them was a First Hollywood theme that I did, because Jacksonville was a very early Hollywood. I mean, the motion movie industry did start up in New York and New Jersey, but come 1908, companies started coming down to the Jacksonville area, setting up shop, started with Callum Pictures. And for a 10-year period, we had 26 movie companies in downtown Jacksonville.
Wow.
Yep. So we were in early Hollywood. So I did do a pub walk, and I did it. The character I chose to be on that was Richard Norman, because Norman Studios is still around. And a shout out to Norman Studios, because it's a museum now. We're finally a museum, Norman Studios up in Jacksonville. So it's the only place in the United States during the silent movie days where all of the buildings are all there. All the buildings.
Really?
All the set buildings, everything is all there. Because you can't find anything today in the United States from the silent movie history. All those companies have all, there aren't any buildings or nothing. everything is there where Norman Studios is.
What's the museum actually called then?
Norman Studios.
Yeah.
Norman
I'm going to have to
Studios.
take that one. See, that's another reason I like having tour guides from various
Yeah.
directions.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that. I've just learned something new myself tonight.
And what's really cool about it, and it fits into Jacksonville's culture really well, is that because not only are we the an early Hollywood. In fact, a guy wrote a book, Sean Beam, called The First Hollywood. But we have a Jacksonville Film Commission, and a lot of movies are basically, filmed in Jacksonville. We have a film commission, and you'd be surprised how many movies out there, have been filmed in Jacksonville.
Well, there's a lot of
scenes of them.
There's a lot of Hollywood things that happened in this area.
Yeah.
Flipper was done in some parts of this area here. Creature of the Black Lagoon.
Yep. Yep.
Tarzan.
Yep.
An episode or two of the Munsters from the 1960s TV show. There's a whole lot.
Yeah.
Richard Boone lived in St. Augustine and taught classes at Flagler College on acting. There's a whole lot in this area, but I wasn't aware of what's in. I'm going to have to go to that museum. I think that would be an interesting museum.
So what makes it a real neat museum too, Richard Norman was a white guy, and he made movies for the African American community.
Really?
He recognized a niche because back in the early days of movie making, African Americans were only featured in stereotypical roles.
Right.
They were the maids and the butlers and stuff like that. That was it. Well, he realized that there was a niche there and to make movies for the African American community.
Wow.
So all of his actors and actresses, they're all African American, but they played the pilots, the doctors, the architects. They played all the parts. So there's one movie from Norman Studios that has survived, one full-length movie. It's called The Flying Ace.
Really?
And if you ever get a chance to attend an event where they're playing The Flying Ace, go. It's a riot to watch. It's so much fun to watch.
Well, I'm going to have to go up there and take a tour of this place. Is it a self-guided tour of their museum?
Yeah, you can make it a self-guided tour. Definitely check the hours though on it because I don't know if it's open every day.
Right. That sounds like something interesting.
Yeah.
I'd like to do that. I'm sure there's quite a few of my listeners that are part of my crew. We could all make it a day and go up there and have a good time. That would be a lot of fun. I like learning about the other parts of history here.
Yeah.
I know a lot of it because this is my hometown and I know what's been passed on down from generation to generation. But to learn this, that's pretty cool. I like that. Very cool. And you did a tour for it. And there's some great pubs up there too, or great breweries. So pub crawls, I did see somebody made a comment that pub tours, Jacksonville pub tours is a great idea. So Davey.
Yes.
I'm torn between which way I want to go right now. Do we want to go ahead and do This Week in History, and then I have a read to do? And
yes.
It's about professionalism. And I believe that there'll be some comments that we can make together and have a short conversation on it. I don't want to beat a dead horse or anything, but I have to read. I like to write. And so once in a while I'll write something and reinvent it and write. And so let's see what we can do here. So go ahead, Davey, and let's do This Week in History, sponsored by our good friends at Dick's Wings. Dick's Wings has wings. Obviously, it's in the name. But if you want a great lunch special, they're the place to go. Great prices on lunch specials. And they have some of my favorite rums when I get a chance to step in the evening on the way home from a long day of doing tours. Dick's Wings out here on US 1 by the shores. Davey, take her away.
Welcome to This Week in History, sponsored by our good friends at Dick's Wings Bar and Grill. Wings, salads, wraps, quesadillas, and more. No matter what your taste buds crave, they've got you covered. We begin This Week in History in the year 1528. England and France declare war on Emperor Charles V. 1776. Henry Knox arrives at Cambridge, Massachusetts, with artillery that he has transported from Fort Ticonderoga. 1814. First Knights Templar Grand Encampment in U.S. held in New York City. 1825. U.S. Congress approves Indian Territory, present-day Oklahoma, clearing the way for the forced relocation of the eastern Indian tribes via the Trail of Tears. 1848. James Marshall finds gold in Sutter's Mill in Coloma, California. 1849. Elizabeth Blackwell becomes first woman in the U.S. to earn a medical degree graduating from New York's Geneva Medical College. 1877. Congress establishes the Electoral Commission to determine the disputed presidential election between Rutherford B. Hayes and Samuel J. Tilden. 1881. Cleopatra's Needle, a 3,500-year-old ancient Egyptian obelisk, is erected in Central Park, New York. 1887. Ground is broken and construction begins on the Eiffel Tower in Paris, France. In 1905, in St. Petersburg, Russia, a large demonstration of workers, led by Father Gapon, marched to the Winter Palace with a petition to the Tsar. Troops fire on protesters in what becomes known as Bloody Sunday. 1918. Herbert Hoover, U.S. Food Administrator, calls for wheatless and meatless days for war effort. In 1935, first canned beer, Kruger's Cream Ale, is sold by American company Kruger Brewing Company. In 1943, Duke Ellington plays at Carnegie Hall in New York City for the first time. 1948, first tape recorder sold. 1954, the 11th Golden Globes, The Robe, Spencer Tracy, and Audrey Hepburn win. 1957, Wham-O Company produces the first Frisbee flying disc, originally called the Pluto Platter, until 1958. 1968, Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In premieres on NBC. 1979, The Dukes of Hazzard premieres on U.S. TV network CBS. And finally, in 1986, Space Shuttle Challenger explodes 73 seconds after liftoff from Cape Canaveral, with all 7 crew members killed, including Krista McAuliffe, who was to be the first teacher in space. And that was This Week in History.
Very good, Davey. Very good. I didn't see one magic reference in there. So, what we always like to do after This Week in History is we do a mail call or Captain's Corner. And I have a read, and I'd like to share it with everybody. Let's see if that's it. There it is. So recently I was privy to an issue that gave me cause to think and the desire to share some thoughts on what I hope will be considered wise and sage advice. Many moons ago in a galaxy far away, when I was just a simple magician making a living by my talents, I had developed a mindset to be aware of other magicians in the area that I was working. Not in a bad way, mind you, but in a way to be aware, professional, and considerate to my fellow performers. Now, if I was contacted by a client wishing to book me, I always asked, how did you hear about me? Or how did you come to find out about me? If it was a referral, that gives you an idea who thinks well enough of you to refer you and also gives you a chance to say thank you. If it was someone who had attended another event or had seen me perform in some publicity, this gives you an idea of the directions to continue your work. This next point, though, is very, very important. I also always have asked, have you hired another magician in the past? This is an important question. Why? Because you now want to know why they are not hiring that magician again. This can be very important information. And if you are a professional and you know a client has in the past hired a rival, you should be professional enough to make sure if you accept the booking, it's based on the client's answers and not based on the fact you could be backstabbing a fellow performer. I've turned down many bookings because I never wanted my fellow performers to think I would steal from them. Now, you may ask, what does this have to do with anything? Well, I am now a professional entertainer using my talents as a magician, but also as a pirate. When I first started this new venture in my life here in St. Augustine, my hometown, almost 18 years ago, there were not that many pirates at all. But now there are many pirates and many crews. Not all are professional, meaning to derive a living from, but many that can do some various degrees of entertainment, especially towards the charity aspect of which many crews are founded. There are so many overlapping opportunities and issues among the various groups and pirates now that, well, most people in the pirate community, most people do not realize that the pirate community, wait, I've lost my place because my apologies. There are so many overlapping opportunities and issues among the various groups now that the leaders of the pirate community should be given respectful consideration to issues that are beginning to rise up. First, and this is important to understand, the general public does not understand that all of us pirates are not just one big happy family sharing and communicating regularly. Miscommunications do and are happening. I am constantly contacted to do events, but using the professional courtesies I mentioned in the beginning of this post, I have found out potential clients have me or my crew confused with another crew. And well, I decline the offer and inform the client they are mistaken and need to make contact with that other crew. In the long run, at least to me, this is just good business. If the client returns to me later and informs me that the other pirate or crew was not able to make an agreement, or there was a financial or calendar difference, or it just wasn't in the cards, then I have done my due diligence and feel it's professional to take the booking then. By the same token, knowingly soliciting a client who you know already has a relationship or a potential agreement in negotiations with another pirate or crew is just plain wrong and unprofessional. And please don't use the excuse or the reason that we are pirates and laugh about it, because my answer to that is always the same. If we were real pirates, you would only make that unprofessional mistake against me and my crew once. The bottom line, professionalism instills harmony and ability to work together, whether it's pirates or magicians or musicians or entertainers of any type, including even tour guides. Whereas the opposite just confuses and continues to feed rumors, bad drama, and animosity among everybody. I respectfully submit this for your considerations, Captain William Mayhem. So you see, there is a certain amount of professionalism that I think is important. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
I mean, I posted this on my 2 Facebook pages today, and I got a lot of agreements and ideas. Unfortunately, sometimes when you post on Facebook, the people that probably need to see it don't see it. But I still get to have my words and say something. I'm not trying to preach to anybody, but I do believe that as St. Augustine is growing hugely, exponentially, there's going to be need for pirates and entertainers and reenactors and tour guides. We could all work together. I mean, in my thought process, the reason there's a Walmart and a Target is because competition breeds better products. Same in our industry. Competition does breed better products, better tour guides. And if you're a good tour guide or a good pirate or a good magician or a good musician and you stand out, you'll get the business. The bad ones don't, but it takes a little while. That's right. Just the way I feel about it. And I hope that some of the people that are listening and watching and down the road see this episode will actually agree with us. All right?
Absolutely.
There you go. Upon that note, ladies and gentlemen, we always like to have the reveal of Mini Mayhem's Joke of the Week. So, this is sponsored by Salt City Comics, our good friend who has done all the comics of everything you've seen of us, the cartoon characters. And eventually, you might actually be able to have them on a T-shirt or a poster or something. We're working on some ideas to have paraphernalia that you can buy as part of the Captain's Quarters podcast. But for now, Salt City Comics presents to you the reveal of Mini Mayhem's joke.
Okay, it's time for the answer to the joke of the week. Which gym did the pirate visit? The answer is the Gold's Gym.
Yeah. Davey thinks it's funny.
You didn't know what it was.
What's that?
You didn't know that. What the
No,
answer was.
I had no idea. You caught me. I did forget to do one other thing when we were talking about.
Guest on deck.
Yes, I forgot one other thing when we were talking about Old City Pirate Day. A good friend of ours here in St. Augustine is an artist, and he always makes sure we get some kind of a painting to put up for auction. And this is the one that he's done for us this year. There you can see it in the light. It's a pirate ship. If I bring it in closer, you can see it. What's really interesting, though, is with his painting, he always provides a coin. And so he's provided us with a coin. The coin is from 1808, and it came from the Admiral Gardner shipwreck of 1809. And so you get this plaque with and with the coin and everything. And it's a 2-frame set that will be available at our event as one of our raffle items. We have not decided how we're going to do that yet. We have a couple of ideas, but we have that, and we have at least 7 really great baskets that going to have all kinds of things. We're even working on 2 baskets, a couple of baskets for children too. So we have a whole lot. This is just another way, like as we said earlier, all the proceeds for Old City Pirate Day go to Alia's Acres and Inc. All the proceeds are going to charity. And this has been a very easy event to do, even though I'm disappointed we had to back off from the 2-day event, 2.5-day event down to a 1-day event. But it's working out to be just as much fun, and I believe it's going to be a lot of fun for everybody. So remember, go to wmayhemproductions.com, and you can find out all about Old City Pirate Day. So we did forget guests on deck, and I don't have a graphic for it, but I do want to share a couple of thoughts with you so you know who we have coming up. Let's see if I can get my cursor back over here to the other side. And there it is. So as many of you know, and he's in the gallery, my son is there, and he's come up with a couple of dates for us. So here's a good one. April 15th is the anniversary of Lincoln's assassination. So we're going to talk about that. That was, a pivotal point in American history. February 5th, Vesta, who many of you know, we're working on a movie with her. And the movie is about witches and pirates. And I'll just leave it that simple. But she's going to come on because the Salem witch trials started in February, many, many years ago. So we're going to talk about that. My good friend Bill Leclerc, many of you know him as Ole Mackerel, and his daughter Rebecca. They've written a book. That book is a combination sci-fi history book on zombies just prior to the American Civil War. It's an interesting book. I read it in 2 sittings. I read it, half of it, and then had to take a break, and then went back and read it again. They're working on a sequel to it. They're going to be here in February also, February 19th, I believe it is. We have a guest coming on March the 4th who has done a lot of research on various pirates up and down the East Coast, and he has information that he believes proves that Blackbeard's crew, once Blackbeard was executed or beheaded, that Blackbeard's crew was not executed. And he has proof, and we're going to talk about that. I find that to be terribly interesting, and it would be a lot of fun to have a conversation about it. World Belly Dance Day is in May the 6th. And our good friend Gina of Ancient City Sirens, we're hoping she can make it for that episode. Oh, and by the way, my birthday is May 7th, so we're going to have a birthday celebration. The birth and creation of Superman is in July, so we're going to do that. And those are just a few of the ones we've got coming up. If you want to be on the show because you have a good crew you want to brag about, or you have a good event you want to brag about, you have to let us know. You have to contact us. You can contact us through mayhemproductions.com, or you can contact us through our other email, which is Captain's Quarters Podcast 21@gmail.com. We're open to having anybody be on the show. We want to talk about pirates. We want to talk about history. We want to talk about all the different charity events that happen in this area. And if we can give you some publicity by having you on the show and making it a fun show, then we want you on board. But we need you to let us know. Contact us. That way we can then look at the dates and see what we have available. We have a lot. We have only about 10 of the dates for the new year taken care of. There's at least 45 more, give or take. So join us if you will. On that note, Davey, have I forgotten anything?
Comments.
What's that?
You need to go through the comments.
We should go through the comments because I believe there were some really good ones. So let's back up and go through the comments. I'm going all the way back to the beginning. Hold on a minute. There's my cursor. And let's go through the comments all the way back to the beginning. Zachary Harker, welcome from Michigan. I bet, ahoy from ice-covered Michigan. Looking forward to a fantastic show. Thank you very much. You are a loyal listener. We love having you there. I see Jim is there. Here we are. It's Monday. You're right. It's Monday. And Nightingale in Florida. She says ahoy. Then there's Ransom Mayhem from Panama City Beach, Florida. That's actually my brother. Let's see what else we have. Will the Historian. Why do I see a pirate nutcracker selling next Christmas? Where do you see that? I happen to look now because we took him down. I heard a rumor the other day that when Captain Mayhem passes, the Pirate Museum is going to replace Blackbeard's head with a real talking Mayhem. Chad Cook from the Queen Anne's Revenge pirate crew. Is that it? Yes, I believe that's it. Let's see. Glad to have you aboard, Chad. You're one of the ones I was thinking we might need to have you come on board the show and talk about your event. I got a couple of open dates. Let's talk. Will the Historian, only if it's all natural. I don't want to know what you're talking about. I really don't. It means writer of parodies. Okay. I guess that's what I do. Writer of parodies. So far, they say their bodies have not been found. Who's not been found? I hate coming into these halfway through. I heard that people at Potter's parking sucks there. Or the other issue is all the homeless taking over downtown. Yeah, I have to agree with that one too. Very good. The wife and I enjoy seeing all the historical sites. The part we didn't like was deciding where to get food from. So many great selections. So I can't argue that one either. That's a good one. Favorite thing? Toss up between the fort and being on your show. Well, thank you very much. Will the Historian is my son. That's not a biased statement at all. Nightingale in Florida says, love the history. Really enjoy visiting the historical sites and local restaurants. If you ever visit, check out. You took it down too quick. Check out what?
Pirate Museum.
Pirate Museum. Okay, very well. Good. Yeah, good. All right. What else is on there? Let's see. Captain Smoo, Quebec, Canada. So now that I know that you're on the show, when are you coming to St. Augustine? Have you picked your date in February yet? Let me know because I'd like to make some plans to do something if I'm around. Talking about French, I had to show up. Jackson is no hero to Florida since he raided and attacked it before we were brought from Spain. Yeah, let's see. So did this lady on your tour, Captain, deny the existence of the Huguenot cemetery? I probably didn't spell it right. No, I think you spelled it right. And I didn't even think to use that to argue with her. Darn, where were you at 2 years ago when that happened? That would have been a good one. Nightingale, she was partly right. The majority of the French were Catholic, and the Huguenot was a serious problem, which is how they got here. The French king paid their way and agreed to support. That's true, actually. They gave them an out and sent them to the New World. And as long as they were a pain in the hindquarters to the Spanish, it was even better for the French. That's true. Absolutely right. What else do we have there, Davey? I see a Facebook user said hello. If you watch us from Facebook, ladies and gentlemen, we only see that you're a Facebook user. I can't tell who you are. Let's see. I just passed that one. Let's see. 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 Let That one I just passed. That one we just passed. We had that one. Merci pour les compliments. How was my French there, Smoo? Was that okay? And my brother Ransom says they call them shell phones. Yeah, I don't use that joke anymore because everybody else does. Let's see. When a tourist catches me with my cell phone, I say it's a magic talking box that I acquired from a tourist. That's a good one. I like that one. That's a good one. Ransom Mayhem says I always ask the tourists if I can see their phone. When they hand it to me, I walk away about 12 feet from them, then turn and say, never give your phone to a pirate. Now you have to buy it back. Yeah, that's a good one too. Yeah, that one works. I also get asked if I would take a picture of them. I am not in the picture, so I reverse the camera and take 4 or 5 just of me before I turn the camera in and take their picture. And I don't tell them. I do that too. I take a close up of my face and then turn around and make the other picture. They don't know it's happened, so I'm sure it's hopefully quite funny in the long run. I'll do a tour of the fort to the Ponce Hotel underground in Henry Flagler's private tunnel if I can ever find it. What are you saying, Jim? That's a rumor? So D. Gregory, great tour, took it just over. So he took your vault tour.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Historic churches tour. Yes, please. He'd take one of those. That would be a good one. It would be cool. It would. We might have to.
We have amazing churches in Jacksonville.
Yes.
Used to do a church tour in St. Augustine, but some of them never quite bounced back since the pandemic, like the Flagler Memorial Presbyterian Church.
Yeah.
It's only like open like on Fridays.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
So Donna Bogus is a former school teacher, and she says it would be great to tie your historic tours to the state standards in social studies. It would be great, Donna, and that's a wonderful idea, but it works for me because she's given me the standards, and I try to do it because we do so many school tours, but I don't think you do that many school tours, really, do you?
We do a fair amount.
Do you?
It's nothing like you all do. But I have the same schools call me every year, Chimney Lakes Elementary and the Bowl School. I get the same ones call every year.
Well, it's a good idea, Donna, and I've always tried to look at the standards. It also gives me a little bit of information that when I'm talking to the children about Castillo de San Marcos, the amount of information in the standards, and I understand that there's a whole lot of information about the fort, and the fort took 23 years to build, but the mention in the school books is about that much.
Yeah.
I understand why they can't go into so much depth, but there's a whole lot about the fort that's very interesting to share with people. So I've had the best compliments from tours by making them interactive. People are eager to have a great experience and learn, not to just have a college dissertation. You're absolutely right, Jim. It's all about the entertainment, as we said earlier in the program. What else do I have here? Nightingale made a comment about homeschooled. Davey, you see that one? Right under Donna's. Homeschooled my boys, the group we joined. Parents took turns teaching different subjects. Mine was science. The older kids would help the younger kids with whatever project we were working on. That's a good idea. That is a good idea. That promotes some harmony. Zachary Harker, while at a store shopping, was in my motorcycle gear and I heard a little kid go, "Look, Mom, a pirate." I had to stop and think for a moment. What did I leave the house in? I guess bikers look like pirates. That's a good one. Also enjoyed the Jack's 200 walking tour.
Yeah, that was when Jacksonville had his bicentennial in 2022. I dressed as Isaiah Hart, the city founder, and I did walking tours in the original 20 blocks of Jacksonville. So that's actually a pub walk that I do now, and I could also be hired as a private tour to do it. Sure.
Jim made a comment similar to yours that most people don't have an idea that Jacksonville was huge during the silent movie industry.
Yep.
You know who? So I'll throw this piece of information out. You know who really got involved in the silent movie industry? Think about my background. There's your hint. Harry Houdini.
Oh.
Harry Houdini got really involved and did a couple of movies.
Yeah.
Yep. He also did a wing walker. I did the Trail of Tears motorcycle ride. That was awesome. That would be an interesting one, and I'm sure. And Nightingale liked the Laughing Show. Of course, everybody liked the Laughing Show. The magic references were there, but they disappeared. The man that played the old man in Dukes of Hazzard was just in Panama City Beach this past weekend. That would be
Denver Pyle.
Yes, Denver Pyle. What was he doing in Panama City? That'd be interesting to see. Did you meet him? Let's see. Thank you, Nightingale. Wrote a paper on the assassination in college. So Will the historian is my son, as many of you know, so he will be our guest when we talk about Lincoln's assassination. And since he wrote a paper, well, that'll be a lot of fun. It will be more towards mid-March due to the March break. Okay, well, make sure it's not the weekend of the 15th, 16th, and 17th, because I will be in Chicago that weekend, which would be closer to Quebec if you wanted to come to Chicago. Otherwise, I'm going to miss you. So let's talk and get some dates worked out. Hot Wheels and Toy Show. He comes every year. Of course, because they have a Dukes of Hazzard car in the Hot Wheels program. Very good. Any others here? Any others? The Navy guys. Okay. Mid-March is fine, though. If you come in the first part of March, you can come to our Celtic Festival, which is the second weekend. I think the 8th, 9th, and 10th is our Celtic Festival. The next weekend, then I'll be in Chicago, in the Windy City. I've never been to Chicago. I'm looking forward to it. It should be a lot of fun. And I'll be there for St. Patrick's weekend, so I guess I'm going to see a Chicago St. Patty's Day parade. And hope I don't get mugged. Oh, well. All right, on that note, we've seen all of our comments. Thank you very much for everybody watching our show. It is time to say thank you. Isn't that right, Davey?
Aye.
So let's do our thank yous. The Captain's Quarters podcast is indeed a ship sailing the seas of the world, always in search of history, knowledge, and adventure. It takes a crew to run a ship, so we take this opportunity to thank those who help keep this ship afloat.
The cast and crew: Captain William Mayhem, Navigator Davey Longwood, Gunner Hellfire Henley, Cartographer Mandy Joe, the Powder Monkey, and Juan Cam.
Helping others gives a crew purpose. Our treasured charities that we support: Inc., investing in kids; the Humane Society of St. Johns County; Alia's Acres, a no-kill animal rescue zone; and the Cadets of the St. Johns County Fire Department. The four major charities that we support, but there's always room for more.
You too can be part of the crew and support the show in many ways. Go to Patreon. A small monthly contribution as Powder Monkey or First Mate memberships, or a single contribution. PayPal or Venmo. Go to YouTube, hit the like and follow buttons to join our ranks and support the show. It does take a crew. Thank you.
Very good. I just saw another comment. Zachary, you live not too far from Chicago. Maybe it's not too far a drive to come and say hello. You never know. The Chicago turns the river green. I've heard that. I'm looking forward to that. So the last comment is by Will the Historian. Can you pop that up, Davey? I can't see it. That's why I don't use a textbook. Alabama history books refer to the Civil War as trouble. Trouble had just a few years ago. Okay, I understand that. My son is a history teacher for middle school and high school kids. All right, very good. Do we have a video for our charities also?
Sponsor video.
Sponsor video, that's what it is. I didn't update my notes. Go ahead, Davey. Our sponsors are the power behind the wheel that drives this ship, Captain's Quarters Podcast. Our major sponsor is the St. Augustine Pirate and Treasure Museum, 850 artifacts on pirate treasures and history.
Marco's Pizza. If you want a good pizza, that is the place to go.
Dick's Wings and Grill. Great wings, but just wonderful lunch specials throughout the week.
And Ancient City Sirens, led by Miss Gina and the wonderful dancers.
And if you want a great walking tour of the oldest city in the nation, Spyglass Travel will do.
And the wonderful talent at Rikers Reenactors.
And a great view of St. Augustine can be seen from the Matanzas River, with Florida Water Tours providing wonderful trips upon the water. These are our sponsors, and we thank them wholeheartedly and graciously. Every night after the show cans, it downloads into several different platforms, and you can watch or listen to us on YouTube, Spotify, or Instagram. You can listen to us on Stitcher, iHeart, CastBox, Apple Podcast, and Amazon Music. I have people constantly tell me in my tours, when I tell them about the show, they say that on their drive back home to wherever they're going, they'll listen to us on the radio on their car. So that's always flattering to have them do. We're at 1,489 subscribers. That's a pretty good number, but I'm hoping to get it up higher. I'd like to see it 1,500 by the end of February. Think we can do it? One other thing I'm going to mention when we're talking about podcasts, I mean, look at all the things we've got there. Rum tasting and a bit of history. What is a pirate's favorite cereal? Joke by Mini Mayhem. Those are some of our top viewed shorts. One other thing I wanted to mention about Old City Pirate Day. On Saturday morning, the first 2 hours of the morning, Captain's Quarters Podcast will be going on, and Parlay 8 will be going on. They're a podcast group a little north of us in Virginia, I believe it is. If they're watching, don't be mad at me. But they're coming to be a part of Old City Pirate Day, and we're going to have 2 podcasts going on for at least the first couple of hours as we start the whole event. But as it gets more and more busy, we're not worried about it. But from about 10 o'clock till 12 o'clock, podcast galore. Come and be on the podcast with either them or us, Parlay 8 or Captain's Quarters Podcast. Let's see. Thank you for supporting our group. 1,490. Are we at 90 now? 1,490?
Yes.
Good. 24 Spotify followers. Patron or Patron. D. Gregory, Kenneth Smith, Trish Krause, Crew of the Silver Moon, and Melinda Harrison. YouTube members are Zachary Harker. We appreciate and raise a glass to all of you, because without you, we can't do this. We need the help in a lot of ways. Thank you very much. Upon that, I don't think we have anything else, do we, Davey?
No, Captain.
I think we've done well. I forget once in a while, but I'm getting old. It's all right. We hope you enjoy our show this week and every week, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, every Monday night. Drop us a line. We'd love to put you on the show, and we're working on some ideas for those special shows that'll happen after we close out our regular shows. But for now, we always have one way that we like to close out our show. So, Davey, take it away.
Part of the podcast. Mason.
Part of the crew.
You've been dipping into the rum already. Always, we can't do the show without all of you. We appreciate it, and thank you very much. And before we do go, one other thing, we always like to give out one of our coins to our guests. There is a token of our esteem.
Oh, thank you.
Something that you can carry around. It's a black poker chip, and black is 100, but it's not worth 100. All right. It's been a good show. And as I always say, if we have a good guest, we go over the hour, and we did. We're at 1 hour and 44 minutes. I appreciate everybody watching the show and sticking with us. We look forward to seeing you next week. Davey, I think we're good to go. What do you say?
Aye.
On with our rest of our event.